Hello, welcome back to our Management 4175 Strategic Management class lecture series. Today we are going to address chapters 4 and 5, talking about internal environment analysis, SWOT matrices, and strategic issues. We're going to build again on our overall model, the strategic planning and strategic management. We started off talking about purpose, vision, mission. Why does your business exist? What is its purpose? That led into what do you want to accomplish as a business? Your objectives, your broad, long-term aims aligning with your vision, purpose, mission, as well as your specific measurable goals to go meet those objectives. We talked last time about the fact that there's this set of internal and external factors that can impact your ability to set and achieve strategies. And we spoke mostly about external last time, and today we're going to focus in on internal. This is that purple cloud that's behind our model that affects all of our strategy selection as well as the decisions that we make and potentially the performance that we have towards our strategy. So today we're going to talk about, again, internal environment. So we're going to try to understand the main premises of resource-based view. So taking a resource-based view of the firm, of your business, analyzing the resources, looking at the VRN or VRO framework, applying value chain analysis, learning how to use the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats framework, and discovering what a strategic issue is and how it's identified and expressed. So backing up to last time, we looked at this external model, and right in the middle is the business, the market that we're in, all of our competitors, the rivalry that we have, but our business. And we have this set of entrants and substitutes that are pressuring us to continue to stay relevant as a business. And then we have the leverage that our suppliers and our buyers and customers have on our business and the impact that has on the strategies that we choose. Around the outside of that, we have this general environment that impacts all businesses in all industries in different ways, but they're all experiencing it. And those are issues that are very difficult to impact as a business. They just are there and they exist. So that's our external environment. But internally, we also have things that we need to evaluate. So we have a couple of different ways to look at it. We're going to look at it as a resource-based view, and we're also going to look at it as a value chain analysis. That's the two that we're going to focus on today. Resource-based view takes a look at the internal phenomena within a company, as well as how those resources are impacted by the competitive environment. And then it looks at whether those resources can be used to create a competitive advantage for your business over other firms in your industry. So are the resources that we have, the capabilities that we have, are they valuable, rare, hard to duplicate? And can they be combined with between the tangible, intangible, and organizational capabilities in a way that makes it special and difficult for others to implement? So if we're able to take that resource-based view of the firm, we can start to look at some of those things. Start with, what is a resource? What is a capability? A resource is something, an asset that a company can draw on when creating. So an asset, as we know, can be tangible. It can be a physical thing, or it can be intangible. It can be something that's difficult to quantify, but it exists, or it can be a human resource. Okay, capabilities, on the other hand, are abilities that the organization and management has to orchestrate the resources and deploy them. So we have the resources, but how do we use them? That's the capability. And then core competencies, unique strengths embedded deep within the firm, allowing the firm to differentiate and create a higher value for the customer. So we start with identifying the resources and identifying our capabilities, and then we look to determine what of those are core competencies that we need to leverage. So graphically, it looks something like this. We identify those resources and the capabilities. We decide which of those are our core competencies, which make us special. We leverage then those through activities that allow us to create a competitive advantage. Pretty simple map to make. As an example, okay, let's look at resources and capabilities, tangible resources locally. We have John Deere. John Deere has, the entire north side of town, the south side of mid to mid side, south side of downtown Waterloo, property, plant, equipment, cash. All of that is our tangible resources that John Deere has. It makes them formidable for someone to try and compete with. Knowledge and resources, intangible resources. BGM locally has an excellent reputation and brand name. They have exclusive rights to intellectual property that they maintain, and leadership traits of their executives and their employee ownership culture makes it a special place. So they're difficult to imitate, even though it's not a tangible thing, it's an intangible thing that's difficult to copy. And capabilities. Southwest Airlines has been acknowledged throughout the years for providing excellent customer service. So that capability, building on its strong organizational culture, which is an intangible resource, is something that allows them to be special. So again, we're looking at what we have, what resources, what capabilities we have that we can leverage to make a difference for us in our markets. So let's think about that again, a resource-based view. How do we evaluate that? We know we can identify our resources and capabilities, but then how do we evaluate it? Well, a simple way is just to simply ask these questions. Or have we created a competitive advantage in terms of are the resources and capabilities that we have, are they valuable? Are they rare? Are they costly to imitate? And are they organized to capture value? So VRIO. We can apply that test in a map, okay, a decision tree. Is it valuable? No. So if not, it's competitive disadvantage. If yes, is it rare? If no, then it's competitive parity. If yes, is it costly to imitate? If no, then it's just a temporary competitive advantage. Is the firm organized to capture value? No, then it's still a temporary competitive advantage. But if you'd answered yes to all four of those questions, it would be a sustained competitive advantage. And that's what we're looking to develop. In a chart form, it may make a little more sense, be a little more straightforward. So our four questions and then the implication on the right-hand side, looking at an individual resource we've identified, is it valuable, rare, costly to imitate, organized to capture value? If it's no, you can go straight down the list and look across to see what competitive implications that means. If we answer yes to all four, we have a sustainable competitive advantage, which is what's shown on the bottom row. There are some other intangible barriers to imitation. So I call them isolating mechanisms, things that make you stand out and stay separate, but they're not really necessarily resources. They can be physical uniqueness, like impossible to duplicate, things like beauty in a resort location, or mineral rights that exist in a piece of land, or design patents, social complexity, interpersonal relationships within an organization that make it difficult to imitate, strong relations with suppliers and customers, causal ambiguity. The causes are just obscure. They're imperfectly understood. We can't identify. You can't figure out. You can't put your finger on what it is that makes them special. And then path dependency. Over time, companies and businesses become experts in their own field. So they have an accumulated set of learning and experience that makes it very difficult to overcome. Their historical circumstance puts them at the top. Another way to think, let's start from the bottom up here. The first thing we want to look at is identifying our resources and capabilities using, and we'll talk about in a minute, value chain functional analysis. We're identifying then our resources and capabilities, and then we're exploring the linkages. Then we're going to evaluate those resources using that VRIO framework. Do we have a potential for sustainable competitive advantage? Okay, once I know that, what am I going to do about it? That's when we step in to develop strategies. What implications does that have? That's allowing me then to create strategies to leverage those resources and capabilities to go create success for my business. So again, we're going to answer that question. How can that VRO analysis of our resources and capabilities be used to exploit um, to be exploited more effectively and fully? Identifying opportunities to outsource activities, how can weaknesses be corrected? There's all sorts of different strategies that we can create. So let's just do one real quick. Let's select a company. So and then look at what resources or capability do they do especially well. So we put a little chart out there similar to what we had before. Let's look at Tesla. Okay. Tesla is acknowledged as having a resource or capability that is outstanding in the terms of electrical power storage. Some would say that Tesla is not a car company, it's a battery company. Is that capability valuable? Yes, it is. It's something that's acknowledged as outstanding. Is it rare? Yes. Difficult to imitate? Very. Organized to capture value? Absolutely. So it is definitely a source of competitive advantage, sustainable competitive advantage. You could also look at Tesla in terms of their display technology for their users, in terms of their driver assist technology, in terms of their after sales support. If you were evaluating an individual resource to look at strategies for how to exploit that, you would do this line by line by line and create strategies to address those. If you were looking to evaluate Tesla overall, as does it have a sustainable competitive advantage or not, you would want to stack up all of their main resources and capabilities, evaluate all of them, and then make a determination. By the way, as part of that, you're going to identify those that are not sustainable competitive advantages, and those are places Tesla may want to explore strategies to allow it to become a sustainable competitive advantage to strengthen their brand and strengthen their business. So that's how we might go about looking at a resource-based view. Another way to look would be a value chain analysis. Value chains are really pretty simple things to put together. It's how you provide value to your customer. You're eliminating all of the non-value added activities, but the primary activity look for a kind of a product-based company would be inbound logistics. How do I get my materials? The operations for converting materials into a product, the outbound logistics, the marketing and sales that I provide to go create value for my customer, and then a service after the fact. You also have some support activities, G&A, human resource, technology, procurement, and others. But the primary activities are the value chain that we're operating with. An example would be Amazon. They actually have three different value chains. They have one as a seller, one as an intermediary for other companies, and then one as an e-commerce service provider. And they have activities that are part of that value chain for each. An example might be Prime. They have different activities that provide value to their customer. Service-based organizations have maybe a different value chain. So like retail might have vendor partnering, purchase of goods, managing and distribution, operating stores, marketing and selling. They may have an internet channel as well, engineering services, R&D, engineering, design and solutions, marketing and sales, service. So there's some service industries also, not just product-based organizations you can identify a value chain for. So resource-based view, value chain view. Okay, so that's how we might look at our internal environment. But then how are we going to put this together with our external environment to go off and think about how we're going to create strategies that give us the most bang for our buck? So a tool that we use is the SWOT analysis. You've probably seen it in other classes before. In fact, I'm sure most of you have. Basically, we're taking our external competitive analysis, our internal analysis, and we're summing it up and creating an overall summation of our major findings in the SWOT analysis. The purpose is to analyze the most important factors and come up then with strategies to leverage or mitigate those factors. Basic tool, internal conditions, we look at strengths and weaknesses. External, we look at opportunities and threats. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, SWOT analysis. Most consider both internal, or we must consider both internal and external factors at the same time to develop a competitive advantage. We can't just focus on internal. We can't just focus on external. We can't just focus on positive, and we can't just focus on negative. We have to look at it holistically to be able to come up with a strong strategic plan. You can put it in a very nice chart format. Our internal and external on the y-axis, our positive and negative on the x-axis, and simply just go in and list. I've done SWOT analysis with many different companies, and you can get up to, I don't know what the largest one I've ever had was, but I'm going to guess in the 4 quadrants we had between 70 and 80 for a recent one that I did with a company, 70 to 80 total, which leads to other concerns when you're doing the SWOT analysis. You can't look at everything. So that's why some of these are shown grayed out. I'm selecting my top 5 in each of those to make it a more manageable set to go look at. So I have to prioritize my view as well. External, remember from the last time, chapter 3, we looked at general and competitive environments. That's where our external comes from. Internal, value chain, resource-based view, sustainable competitive advantage. Taking all the things that we learned, putting them into one format and chart. If we were in class together, we would probably break off into teams. You can do this on your own. Pick one of the groups that I have listed here or any other company that you'd like to take a look at, and just go do a quick brainstorm. What are the strengths of that business? What are the weaknesses of that business internally? What are the opportunities for that business? What are the threats for that business externally? Create the SWOT, identify 2 to 3 major strategic issues, brainstorm 2 or 3 strategies. By golly, at the end of that, you have a pretty strong look at strategies that you can exercise to be able to go lead to greater success for that business. Skip that one. Here's some examples. Southwest Airlines has a strategic issue to adjust the long-term lower passenger volumes and remain the preferred low-cost leader in the industry. That might be an issue that they have. Let's say we're in an economic downturn and the turn that looks to be extended. They have to adjust passenger volumes. So they might leverage shorter point-to-point flights. They might eliminate frills and emphasize value, which in fact are strategies that Southwest Airlines takes. Subway sandwiches. How does Subway enter an untapped international market? That would be a strategic issue they might have. Strategies, you have to understand cultures. You need to understand whether they're receptive to sandwiches on the go. It might be a culture that's not. It might not apply to your business model, or you may need to change the Subway business model to fit that culture. Strategy might be to vary menus to the local preferences. That's frequently done in faster food type of operations. So you're identifying a strategic issue coming out of your SWOT analysis, and then you're addressing that with different strategies. So that's kind of a brainstorming way to look at it. There's another way to do this, kind of a mechanical way, but it's very effective. You take your SWOT, your brainstorm set of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You can narrow it down to that top 5 to 8 for each of those, and then play them off against each other. So let's say I've identified 5 different strengths and I have identified 8 different opportunities. I can look at how do my strengths allow me to pursue opportunities? How do I leverage my strengths to help me win opportunities? You can also look at playing off weaknesses versus threats. I might have a weakness and it might be leading me towards a threat that I've identified. So I may need to create a strategy that minimizes or mitigates or eliminates my weakness so that I can avoid a threat. By looking at it in this way, we can brainstorm many different strategies and again, go through a prioritization exercise to go identify strategies that are best for my business. So hopefully today you've learned a little bit about how to do internal analysis, how to look at a resource-based view of a firm, how to perform a value chain analysis for a firm, and then how to combine those into a SWOT analysis and eventually a look at strategic issues to form strategies to help your business become even more successful. Thank you.